All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today on this very difficult day for our city and difficult day for our community, in which we have had this tragic incident, this loss of life. And my prayers and sympathy go towards both families of both the victim as well as the family of the officer, as well, and all those that are involved. But I appreciate the leadership of Chief Winstrom, who you heard this morning as the incident unfolded, shared with us information about what occurred. It was a shock to all of us, and in line with our values of accountability, we wanted to share with the public what we knew and at the time we discovered it. And today we have learned a little bit more information, but also have information to share about the process, how we can continue to be a trusted partner with our community in terms of sharing information about this unfolding incident. I'm joined here today by our mayor, Mayor Bliss, our police chief, our Director of Oversight, Director Brandon Davis, as well as Captain Dixon, who is the area captain where the incident was involved. And again, I want to thank you today. What you'll hear is our chief will give us an update, situation update, as well as update on the process, along with our oversight director, Brandon Davis, and then we'll hear from our mayor before our chief comes back up and answer any questions. Chief.
Thank you, City Manager. At 8:11 this morning, officer initiated a traffic stop near the intersection of Griggs and Nelson Southeast. The officer was working alone at the time of the stop. The vehicle's driver, an adult male, exited the vehicle. After initial contact, the driver fled the scene briefly on foot. The officer apprehended the vehicle. A lengthy struggle ensued. During the struggle, the officer's weapon discharged, killing the man. No information is being released on the victim at this time, pending family notification. I've heard the calls for a desire for video release, and that's very understandable. So just to be clear, a couple things. After this incident happened, we immediately alerted the Michigan State Police, who are going to be taking over the investigation. The Michigan State Police is collecting all the evidence, including the video evidence. The police officer involved in this by contract has 72 hours to make a statement to the Michigan State Police. That's common in the police field, to give the officer 2 full sleep cycles so that they can give a clear and truthful response to the questions. As well, there's witnesses to be interviewed by the Michigan State Police. Intend to release the video as soon as feasible. My intention is to do so sometime next week, and that gives us enough time to allow the Michigan State Police to conduct a fair investigation without that information being in the public. As well, it'll give me a chance to reach out to the family, who I think has the right to see the video before the rest of the public. In the coming days, I'm going to check on the well-being, again, of this young man's family, as well as that of the involved officer and his family, as this is an extremely traumatic event for all those involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief, and good afternoon. Again, I am representing the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability. My heart, my thoughts, my prayers go out to everyone that was impacted in this incident. The loss of life is always tragic. I do want to take a couple of moments to talk about process, specifically around the role of the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability. I'll start by commending the Chief on his commitment to release the video so quickly. We know that that has not always been the case, and the Chief has shown an extraordinary amount of transparency in this process thus far. The Chief made sure to contact me early so that the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability could be on the scene to ensure that transparency and accountability are happening in this incident. So from a process perspective, the Chief has explained it properly. The Michigan State Police will do the initial investigation into this incident. Once that investigation is concluded, that information will be provided to the police chief and the Internal Affairs Division of the police department. The the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability will monitor and audit that investigation and provide a report regarding it. After that is concluded, then other phases take place. But it's important that we recognize that the first step in this is an investigation that occurs by the Michigan State Police, and we want to make sure that that can be done fairly in order to ensure that there can be accountability, transparency, and fairness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. This is indeed a really difficult day for our city, and my prayers go out to everyone impacted by today's tragic incident. These situations are heartbreaking, and we know they are incredibly traumatizing. At this point, as the chief said, we have more questions than answers, and we trust the Michigan State Police to do their due diligence during this investigation. Fortunately, we also have systems in place to effectively respond. I understand how emotional this can be and recognize the frustrations that many in our community may feel. I personally ask everyone in our community to respect the process and allow the investigators to do their work before reaching any conclusions. With that, I will now turn this back to our chief.
Again, the investigation is in its preliminary stages and is being conducted by the Michigan State Police, but if there are questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to do so now.
Is there anything that comes to the question, from your standpoint, this was not justifiable shooting?
It's definitely too early to do that. You know, this is a use of deadly force. The test for deadly force is that the officer is entitled to use deadly force when defending himself against a reasonable threat of death or great bodily harm. That'll be the test that the Michigan State Police use when they look at it initially, and that'll be the same test that I use to review it after their investigation is handed off to us.
Can you confirm that this individual who was killed was unarmed? If you can confirm that, how does that play into
So,
police handle a case as opposed to just jump?
so at this time, I can't confirm he's unarmed. I did talk to the Michigan State Police lieutenant handling this briefly on the way up here, but they don't have any further updates for me at this time.
The 72-hour rule, I know that's common among police departments.
Sure.
People sitting at home are going to look at this and say, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't have that 72 hours to get some rest and then respond to questions. Why is that different for a police officer?
I get it. I get that concern, and the truth is that if the state police reviews the video, if they review the witnesses, and you know that there was a passenger in this vehicle, if I hadn't mentioned it earlier, and there was also at least one witness on the street there may have been more. So if the initial investigation by the state police produces an obvious account of criminal activity, that officer would be placed into custody. And then he would have to make a decision, not whether or not he's going to exercise his rights under the contract, but his rights under Miranda. So it's not that an individual wouldn't be afforded that 72-hour rule. Individuals have the right to remain silent, as do police officers. We expect them to provide, in use of force incidents, a full accounting. So that's sort of the difference between a civilian and an officer. But I get your point.
How did the officer's body camera fall off?
That's a great question. I can confirm that the officer's body camera was on the scene at the time because I did go to the scene. However, I can't tell you how it fell off. I do know that there was a lengthy struggle. I'm told it was over a minute and a half or 2 minutes of fighting. So it's not uncommon for that to happen.
Or can you tell people how they're strapped on?
Yeah, sure. It depends. There's two ways. They're either attached by a very strong magnet to a metal plate inside a shirt or a vest carrier, or there's actually like a large hook that goes in. And they are fairly secure if you run, but if you're in a fight with an individual, it's not that difficult to dislodge. Yeah, and as the city manager mentioned to me there is body-worn camera video There is in-car camera video. There are other sources of video, at least one other source of video on scene, maybe more, which MSP has confirmed there's one, but they're doing a full canvas. There are individuals with, Ring doorbell cameras in the neighborhood, and possibly one or more people with cell phones. So we expect a clearer, account of what actually transpired as this investigation moves on. Unfortunately, because we turned it over to Michigan State Police, I don't have full access to that at this time.
Do you know if the civilians that have this video have been cooperating with MSP?
As far as I know, they have. Yeah, when I was talking to MSP earlier, they said that they did retrieve a video from a civilian. Yeah, so yes.
Can you confirm the age of the victim, the officer, and how many years he's been on the force?
Thanks, Carla. I know that I believe the victim is 26 years old or thereabouts. I don't know the age of the officer, but I know he was hired in 2015. So.
One more question. So, does it appear as though the officer accidentally fired their weapon in the case of this struggle, or does it appear as though it wasn't intentional? Because it kind of said it went off. Is it clear how the gun went off?
That is a really good question, and I, not having seen the video of the actual weapons discharge, I can't answer it, and I did not get that information yet from the Michigan State Police, so I don't have the answer to that, but that's a great question.
Did the struggle happen while the victim was fleeing? Or can you clarify exactly how that all happened?
So, as far as I know, the incident happened that it was a traffic stop. This individual who's now deceased was the driver of the vehicle. The driver exited the vehicle. There was some sort of interaction with the police officer, and he became aware that he would be placed in custody. He ran a very short distance into a yard very close to the vehicle, and that's where they fought for an extended period of time. Yeah, that's all I know about that.
Do you know if the officer's gun ever came out of the holster? I guess that's kind of akin to her question about accidental.
Yeah, and because I did not see the video and because I did not talk to the officer, it's something that the Michigan State Police will have to piece together, but I don't have that information yet.
Was there an opportunity for the officer to use a taser or any other?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I know there was a taser on scene, and I don't know that's going to all come out, I'm sure, in the investigation.
Maybe a question from Mr. Davis, Mr. Washington. Is there a sense in the community that there's people have an issue with this, and that's why you're stepping up now to try to quell any problems?
Yeah, and what we find is communication and engagement earlier the better in the process, and the chief, myself, and Director Davis have been talking to community members and community leaders all day. And so instead of just having a select group of community members we spoke to, we wanted to make sure that the entire public understood the process moving forward. And so that's the reason why we're here today.
Do you know can I ask this, is the victim black and the officer,
Yes, that is correct, yeah. The deceased is African American and the officer is white.
Are there any protocols for officers in the field when they're by themselves for initiating chases or anything like that?
Sure. Well, I don't know as far as protocols, and keep in mind, Grand Rapids Police Department is the second largest municipality in the state of Michigan, so it's a very big police department in the state of Michigan. However, by and large, across the country, almost always police officers work by themselves. So it is a little different than working with a partner, but that's not out of the ordinary in the policing field. And something like, now, of course, there's policies and procedures on vehicle chases. If you're talking about a brief foot chase for steps, that's really something that's gone over in training.
Chief said earlier the plate didn't match the vehicle that was pulled over. Have you been able to figure out if this is a stolen vehicle?
That I do not know. Yeah.
anyone else? Okay, I think we can probably wrap it up then.
Okay. Thank you.